They laughed so loud at the dinner table, I honestly thought the chandelier might jump off the ceiling just to escape the noise. Leo had just finished telling his favorite joke, if you can call it that, about how the only reason I got through law school was because copy machines came with instructions. "She's a glorified secretary with a degree," he said, grinning like he'd invented humor. "Good thing she's cute. She'd starve otherwise." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. And they laughed. The clients, the board members, the spouses of board members, even the waiter, who was clearly just trying to secure a better tip. It was the kind of laughter that wraps itself around a room like insulation, warm for everyone except the person inside the punchline. Me. I smiled. I always smile. My face has muscles dedicated exclusively to what I call courtroom neutral. Pleasant, unreadable, faintly amused. In high school, I practiced it in the mirror, while my mother told me that being clever was good, but knowing when to look harmless was a skill worth more than a trust fund. Leo never learned that. Leo preferred grand entrances, loud opinions, and the type of charm that relied on other people pretending not to notice the ego dripping off every sentence. He was a senior partner at Western Logistics, a mid-sized firm that pretended it was the beating heart of the American supply chain. He'd framed every sales trophy he'd ever won, including the one shaped like a golden forklift. It sat on our mantel like a monument to heavy lifting and heavier self-regard. It wasn't always like this. There was a version of us that existed somewhere in the past where he wasn't a walking TED talk about how brilliant he was. A version where he still thought my job was impressive instead of amusing. That version seems like a rumor now. Tonight he was on a roll. "Marina doesn't understand real business," he continued, swirling his glass. "She thinks negotiating a merger is the same as folding laundry. Just stack the pieces in the right order." Laughter again, the kind that hurts more because it isn't even clever. I leaned back, took a sip of wine, and let the room blur slightly. There's a moment, right before revenge begins, when everything becomes strangely still. You don't feel rage or panic. You feel a click, like someone just loaded the next move into place. I'd been waiting for this moment for 5 years. I just didn't think it would arrive between the salad course and the overcooked steak. Alicia Trent sat beside him. She wasn't introduced as associate turned mistress, just Alicia from marketing. Glossy hair, perfect posture, the kind of woman who wore beige like it was a power color. She laughed extra hard at his jokes, fingers brushing his arm like punctuation. I caught the look she gave me. Pity, the smug kind. I smiled at her too. Same smile. Courtroom neutral. If she knew what was coming, she would have choked on her risotto. Across the table sat Edgar Phelps, head of HR. He didn't laugh. Edgar is one of those men who looks like a kindly uncle, but files paperwork with the precision of a surgeon. He gave me the smallest nod, the kind that happened so fast you could blame it on a neck twitch. That nod was enough. It meant everything was ready. Leo raised his glass. To the firm's best quarter yet, and to my wife, who may not understand what we do. Chuckles, of course, but at least she looks great in heels. That was it, the moment, the last joke, the last time he'd get applause for being an arrogant showman on my time, on my patience, on my silence. I set my fork down gently. "Actually," I said, loud enough for the table to shift attention, "I do understand what you do. Better than you think." Leo smirked. "Do you, sweetheart?" That word. Always that word. The verbal pat on the head. I leaned forward. "Yes. In fact, I understand it well enough to inform you that this is your final dinner as senior partner." Silence. Not movie silence, but real silence. Messy, confused, breath-holding silence. Leo laughed like I'd delivered a punchline he didn't get. "That's cute. What does that even mean?" Edgar slid a slim envelope across the table. "Mr. Hayes," he said, voice flat, "your employment is terminated effective immediately." Leo blinked. "What?" Edgar continued, "Misconduct, breach of contract, abuse of company resources, and the board's vote of no confidence." He spoke like the words were printed on his tongue. "Your corporate card has been suspended. Your access badge is void. You'll need to return company property." Someone actually dropped a fork. That's how surreal the moment was. Leo stared at Edgar, then at me. "You can't fire me," he said, jaw twitching. "I'm a founding partner." I tilted my head. "Were. Past tense." He squinted at me the way a man squints at the sun he thought would never burn him. "You don't have that authority." "Actually," I said, still smiling, "I do. I own 56% of the firm." Just like that, the laughter died. No, evaporated. You could feel the collective shift from amusement to, "Oh no." Alicia's hand slipped off his sleeve like she'd just discovered it was radioactive. Leo's voice dropped. "That's impossible." "It's paperwork," I said. "You remember paperwork, don't you? It's that thing you never read because you assume you're the smartest person in every room." Edgar added, "2 retiring partners sold their shares over the last 5 years. Mrs. Hayes purchased them." Leo looked at me like I'd just confessed to robbing a bank in broad daylight. "Why would you do that?" I shrugged. "Because you taught me real business, remember? And in real business, the one who signs the checks wins." People were watching now, not just with curiosity, but with the unique terror of realizing they'd been laughing at the wrong person all evening. The waiter froze mid-pour. Someone whispered, "She owns the firm?" Leo tried to stand, but the room became quicksand around him. "You can't do this," he said, voice climbing. "You'll ruin everything." "No, Leo," I said, calm as a lake just before a storm. "I'm cleaning up." He pointed a finger at me, shaking. "You planned this." 5 years. 5 years of him climbing the ladder, unaware I was building the floor. "Yes," I said, "and you should have seen it coming. You're always telling people to know their numbers. Maybe you should have checked who was signing the buyout transfers." Alicia stood, as if she'd been splashed with something unpleasant. "Marina, this isn't fair." I turned to her. "Fair? Alicia, you took a job at a firm where I own the majority and slept with a man who forgot prenup terms are more binding than love letters. You thought you were whispering secrets in the dark, but the lights were on the whole time." Her face flushed. The room shifted in her direction, like gossip hounds sniffing a headline. Leo pounded the table with his fist. "You can't embarrass me like this." "Embarrass?" I repeated, widening my eyes. "Leo, sweetheart, I haven't even started." He opened his mouth, but Edgar placed a folded document in front of him. "You need to sign this acknowledgement of termination. We'll have your items packed and sent by courier. You can collect personal effects under supervision tomorrow." Leo stared at the page like it was written in a foreign language. "No." He turned back to me, voice wobbling between anger and panic. "I'll fight this." "You can hire a lawyer," I said cheerfully. "Just remember, you wrote our prenup." That was the real hit. His eyes widened just enough for me to see fear settle in. The prenup had a clause, his own brilliant idea, that if he was unemployed at the time of separation, he forfeited any claim to assets. He insisted on that clause back when he thought he'd be the one who wanted out. I leaned in slightly, voice soft but sharp. "Pack your desk. You're done." Nobody laughed this time. The room froze in a kind of social suspense, the kind where everyone pretends not to stare, but every ear is tuned like a radio. Leo finally signed the page. His pen scraped across the paper like it was struggling not to break. He shoved it back at Edgar. He rose to leave, but the waiter stepped in front of him, still holding the dessert tray. I had no idea if that was intentional or just tragic timing, but it was poetic. Leo, blocked by cheesecake. Alicia trailed behind him, suddenly less glamorous without the spotlight. People parted as if scandal were a contagious illness. As Leo stormed toward the exit, he turned back. "This isn't over." "Oh, Leo," I said, raising my wine glass. "That's the best part. It's just beginning." When the door shut behind him, there was a silence so pure it could have been bottled and sold as premium awkwardness. Then, slowly, people started breathing again. Someone cleared their throat. Edgar collected documents like nothing extraordinary had happened. Finally, the woman seated across from me leaned forward and whispered, "Did you really just fire your own husband?" I smiled, took a sip of wine and said, "No. I just reminded him who owned the chair he was sitting in." Then I ate my dessert. It tasted like victory and overpriced chocolate. Later, as I walked to the car, the night air felt different, lighter, sharper, cleaner. Like all the invisible weight of pretending had finally stepped off my shoulders. I unlocked the door, slid into the driver's seat, and let myself laugh for the first time all evening. Not dramatic laughter, just quiet satisfaction. Revenge may be a dish best served cold, but it pairs beautifully with crème brûlée and a room full of witnesses. And this was just course one. The morning after the dinner felt like waking up on a different planet, except all the furniture was the same, and the coffee still tasted like the overpriced blend Leo insisted on ordering because it made him feel like a man who conquers mornings. He didn't conquer anything today. He didn't even make it to the kitchen. He was already downstairs when I walked in, pacing in front of the bay window like a house cat that suddenly discovered the glass barrier between it and the outdoors. Except house cats don't usually hold their phones like they're trying to melt them through force of rage alone. "You think this is over?" he snapped, before I even said good morning. "I think the scones need another minute in the oven," I said, opening the fridge. "But sure, we can talk about your crisis first." He slammed his phone onto the counter. "You humiliated me." I looked at him, then at the phone, then back at him. "First of all, you humiliated yourself. I just provided the audience." "You blindsided me," he said. "That's the interesting part," I replied, reaching for the creamer. "You think you were supposed to see it coming, which means you knew you were gambling with something you didn't fully own." He stared at me like he was trying to physically rearrange the world with a look. "You can't expect me to walk away quietly." "Actually," I said, stirring my coffee, "legally I can. You signed the documents. You acknowledged termination. I even made sure Edgar printed the good paper so history would remember you with heavier cardstock." He took a step toward me, not threatening, just desperate. "Do you know what this looks like?" "Oh, yes," I said. "It looks like accountability, but with better lighting." He turned away, raking his hands through his hair. That move used to look charming when he was younger. Now it just looked like a man trying to find a way to blame gravity. "You ruined my career." "No, Leo," I said. "You ruined your career when you treated people like props in your personal commercial. I just shut the set down." He spun back around. "I built that company." "And I bought it," I replied. "That's how ownership works." For a moment, he didn't speak. He just stared at me with the realization that the narrative he told himself no longer lined up with the facts. It's amazing how fast confidence drains when a person realizes their throne was a bar stool the entire time. "And Alicia?" he asked. "You're going after her too?" I took a slow sip. Why would I do that? She's already hooked herself to a man with no office and no income. That's karma with an elegant bow. He opened his mouth, then shut it again. The silence between us wasn't peaceful. It was the silence of someone realizing they can't rewrite what already happened. "You're not the person I married," he finally said. "No," I agreed. "I got promoted." He stormed out of the room, which would have been dramatic if he hadn't walked the wrong direction first. I heard him open the pantry door, mutter something unprintable, then finally find the exit. I didn't bother following. I've never chased a man in my life, and I wasn't going to start with one I just fired. By noon, the neighborhood already knew. Gossip in Willow Ridge travels faster than Wi-Fi. 3 houses down, Gwen Porter, who considers herself the unofficial press secretary of our street, was already outside watering her plants, which is impressive considering they're all plastic. She didn't wave. She just watched me the way some people watch courtroom reality shows, with popcorn-level interest and zero empathy. The group chat probably had a name like Ladies of the Cul-de-sac or Wine and Whispers. I'd been removed from it years ago when I skipped 3 consecutive book clubs and failed to pretend I cared about leopard print cardigans from discount catalogs. I walked to the mailbox, and right on cue Gwen called out, "Marina, everything okay?" I turned, gave her the same smile I'd use in a courtroom before I dismantle someone politely. "Perfectly fine, Gwen, just cleaning house." "Oh?" she asked, eyes glinting. "Heard some talk." "I'm sure you did," I said, taking the stack of mail. "You should start charging subscription fees. You could retire early." Her smile twitched. "Well, if you ever want to talk." "I'll schedule a press conference," I said, then walked back up the driveway. She was still standing there when I closed the door. By 2 p.m., Leo's company card had been declined at a gas station. I know this not because I checked, but because he texted me. Very mature. Cutting off my card. I texted back, "It was corporate property. Consider it a budget adjustment." He replied, "You're heartless." I typed, then deleted, then typed again. Not heartless, just tired of being your life support. I didn't send it. Not yet. Leaving a message in drafts is sometimes more powerful than sending it. Like a grenade with no pin pulled. Still dangerous. Still present. At 4 p.m., Edgar called. His tone was professionally calm, which usually means something exciting is happening. "Thought you'd want to know," he said. "Leo showed up at the office." "Let me guess, demanded someone apologize to him?" "Something like that. Security escorted him out. He threatened litigation." "Of course he did." "This is the part you're going to like," Edgar added. "He tried to use the building access card. Denied. Then he demanded a temporary one. Denied. Then he asked to speak to the board. And the board said that there's no longer a board. There's an owner." I smiled. "Did you enjoy that a little?" "A fair amount." "Good. You've earned it." At 6:30, I filed for divorce. The clause he insisted on, the one that voids asset claims if he is not employed at time of separation, sat in the paperwork like a gift-wrapped boomerang. He wanted to protect his earnings from imaginary gold-digging future versions of me. The irony was delicious. My attorney Vanessa slid the documents across the table. "You sure you want to do this now?" "Yes," I said. "He's unemployed. The clock is my friend." "And emotionally?" I considered that. Emotionally, I feel like someone just returned my spare key after double parking in my soul for the last decade. She nodded. That's a very poetic way of saying yes. Around 7:15, Leo showed up at the house again. No knocking this time. He used the code. I was in the living room reviewing contracts, and he walked in like a man who'd forgotten which version of reality we were currently in. "You filed for divorce?" he asked. "Yes." "You didn't even talk to me first." "I did talk to you," I said. "For years. You just had the volume set to you." He paced. "You're doing this to ruin me." "No," I said. "I'm doing this to stop letting you ruin me." "You're proud of this?" he asked, gesturing wildly. "You think people admire you for this?" "No," I replied, "but they respect me now, and I love respect more than applause." He stopped pacing and stared at me, breathing hard. Not from running, just from losing control of a world he thought was built of his choices. "You will regret this," he said. "No," I said lightly. "I'll regret that I waited this long." He opened his mouth again, but something changed in his face. A slow realization, a new kind of panic. He wasn't losing a wife. He was losing the person who made him believable. "You can't do this alone," he said, voice softer, almost pleading. "Yes," I said, "I can." And I meant it. He left, but he didn't slam the door this time. He just walked out slower, like a man trying to figure out how everything he stood on quietly shifted beneath him. I sat there for a moment, listening to the quiet, not peaceful quiet, strategic quiet, the kind that exists before the next move. Then I got a text from an unknown number. "Tell me this isn't true." "Alicia." I stared at the phone, considered replying, considered ignoring, then replied, "It's true. Good luck with your next project. Try picking someone who still has an office." No response. I could practically hear her panic from across town. By nightfall, the gossip network was in full swing. The HOA Facebook page had a concerned community update about household disturbances. Someone tagged me with the eye emoji. Someone else asked, "Are they separating?" Another comment, "She always seemed cold." My favorite, "He didn't deserve this. He's such a good man." I typed a reply, then deleted it, then poured a glass of wine instead. If people want a villain, I can give them one. I've spent half my life being the polite version of myself for other people's comfort. The other half starts now. At 11:02 p.m., I received one last text from Leo. "You've just made the biggest mistake of your life." I stared at it for a moment, then wrote, "If you think this was the big move, Leo, you're not even in the right chapter." I didn't send that either. Not yet. Some responses are better delivered with actions. Revenge, like a courtroom argument, works best when it arrives with evidence, timing, and a headline. Tomorrow, the real work begins. The first rule of suburban warfare is simple. Nobody admits it's happening. Everyone smiles, waters their lawns, waves at passing cars, and pretends the world is a Hallmark commercial, while quietly gathering ammunition made of rumors, HOA violations, and poorly filtered group chats. By Monday morning, I was no longer just the woman who fired her husband. I had officially graduated to the woman who destroyed her husband's life over dessert. That's how Gwen put it anyway. I know because someone forwarded me a screenshot of her message in the neighborhood ladies' social circle thread. Subject line, concerning behavior at house the Bagam 14. I don't live at house the 14, I live at house the 12. But in this community, accuracy is optional and dramatic wording is a sport. Gwen posted, "Unconfirmed but reliable sources say Marina humiliated Leo in public and forced him out of his own business. I always knew she was cold." Unconfirmed but reliable sources. That phrase alone should qualify for immediate exile from the state. The best part wasn't the accusation, though. It was the follow-up comments. "She never came to the Valentine's brunch last year. Red flag. She doesn't decorate for Halloween. She works too much. That kind of ambition is never healthy." That one made me laugh. Ambition from a man is drive. Ambition from a woman is a psychiatric concern, apparently. Vanessa called while I was halfway through my second coffee. "Before you ask," she said, "Yes, I saw the group chat screenshot." I sighed. I've become the villain in a pastel neighborhood thriller. "You knew this would happen." "Oh, I knew," I said. "But I also assumed I'd at least get a villain origin soundtrack, something with violins and thunder." The HOA president is requesting a community mediation meeting if the domestic tension is going to affect the harmony of the street. I laughed. "They should sell tickets. We can rent a popcorn machine." "Do you want me to respond?" "No, let them speculate. Gossip is like bad perfume. If they spray enough of it, eventually someone else will walk through the cloud." By afternoon, the war had officially escalated. I was returning from the office when I saw Gwen standing at the edge of her lawn, strategically pretending to prune a bush that hasn't grown since Obama's first term. She straightened as I got closer, fake smile set to maximum wattage. "Marina, quick question," she said, in the tone of someone who already knows the answer and just wants to hear it out loud. "Is it true Leo moved out?" "Yes," I said, unlocking my front door. "Oh," she replied, eyes sparkling with a mix of concern and caffeine. That must be hard, so sudden. He had a calendar, I said. He could see it coming. Her fingers tightened around her hedge clippers. You seem calm. I practiced. Well, she lowered her voice the way people do before delivering televised tragedy. If you ever need support, we're all here. I'm sure you are, I said. You've probably been talking about nothing else. She tilted her head. People are just curious. You were always so private. That's called being an adult, Gwen. It's not a disorder. Her smile twitched. I stopped, met her eyes. If you're trying to figure out whether you should take Leo's side, don't bother. He doesn't have one left. That shut her up for a good 4 seconds, which in her world was equivalent to a medically induced coma. Inside, I dropped my bag, kicked off my shoes, and opened my laptop. I didn't need to scroll far to find the next problem. Alicia. She had posted a photo on Instagram, not of Leo, not that reckless, but of herself sipping a latte in a co-working space, captioned, New Beginnings. Some people build walls, others build empires. Hashtag boss energy. Hashtag grind season. Hashtag unbothered. The latte foam was in the shape of a heart. Someone commented, He's lucky to have you. I read it twice, then closed the laptop before the sarcasm in my brain leaked out through my mouth. Alicia was not unbothered. Her contract with the firm had already been flagged for review because what she didn't know, and what Leo also didn't know, was that her private side agreement with a competitor wasn't just unprofessional. It was a violation of her employment clause. And I had proof. I didn't hack anything. I didn't hire a shadowy investigator. I simply read things the way competent adults do, line by line, with a highlighter and patience. Her emails didn't reveal a scandal. They revealed stupidity. She forwarded herself confidential financial projections. She left her signature on a competitor's draft proposal. She sent a message from her work account titled, Let's play both sides. If I ever commit a crime, I will not narrate it through Outlook. I forwarded everything to the firm's legal division with one line, suggest immediate contract re-evaluation. I didn't need to attach a threat. The paperwork spoke fluently. The real trouble came around 6 p.m. when my doorbell chimed and I opened it to find Alicia herself standing on my porch, wearing a trench coat that looked like it came from the Fashion for Women Who Want to Look Important in Rain collection. Marina, she said, like we were meeting for brunch instead of an unscheduled confrontation. We need to talk. I looked at her, then at the sky, then back at her. Do we? Yes. She pushed past me without being invited in, which was bold considering the circumstances. She stood in the foyer, clutching her bag like it contained the last of her reputation. You didn't have to drag me into this, she said. Oh, I didn't drag you anywhere, I replied. You walked into it, in heels. You sabotaged Leo. I held Leo accountable. Sabotage implies I created the problem. I didn't. I just refused to be the unpaid janitor for it anymore. You got him fired. No, I said. He performed his way out of a job long before I signed the paperwork. She swallowed. And now you're trying to get me fired. Oh no, I said sweetly. I'm not trying. I already did the paperwork. She blinked. You ruined his life. Now you're coming for me. Don't flatter yourself, I said. You were just the accessory. He was the main act. She shifted her weight. Do you even care what this does to him? To both of us? Absolutely not, I said. You made a career move. I made a correction. Her eyes flashed. You're cold. I'm efficient, I corrected. There's a difference. She stood there another second, like she was waiting for me to realize I'd gone too far. I didn't. You'll regret this, she finally said. I smiled. That line's getting recycled a lot this week. Maybe try a new one. She left. Not gracefully, not dramatically, just angrily enough to slam the screen door and remind me that emotionally unstable people should not handle hinges. By Wednesday, the gossip war turned strategic. Gwen escalated to what I call passive-aggressive community theatre. She posted in the neighborhood forum, "We should consider a street-wide support circle for those affected by sudden marital breakdown. It's always the quiet ones." Someone replied, "Is Marina okay, though?" Gwen answered, "Let's pray. She's always been so controlled. That energy can't be healthy." Controlled. That word. People love calling women controlled, when what they really mean is not performing emotional labor for us. I didn't reply online. I responded in person. HOA meeting. Thursday night. Beige conference room in the clubhouse. Folding chairs. Refreshments that tasted like shame and powdered lemonade. Gwen was there, already performing hostess mode, which is just gossip with name tags. "Marina," she said brightly, "so glad you came." "I live here," I said. "It wasn't a long drive." She tried a laugh. It sounded like she'd swallowed a stapler wrong. The meeting started with talk about seasonal lawn decorations and recycling reminders, because even chaos respects agenda order. But the real moment came when the HOA president, the kind of man who treats bylaws like scripture, cleared his throat. "There have been concerns," he said, "about disruptions to the harmony of our neighborhood." Translation: "Your drama is loud and we don't like watching it from behind hedges." Gwen raised her hand. "Some of us are worried. Yes, it's been tense. And tension spreads." I raised my hand. "Just for clarity, what exactly is the tension? The fact that my marriage ended, or the fact that I didn't let myself be embarrassed quietly?" A few heads turned. Someone coughed. Gwen tightened her jaw. "We just think transparency is important," she said. "Oh, fantastic," I said. "Then let's be transparent. You want answers? Ask me directly, not through a forum disguised as a bake sale." Silence. Beautiful, glass-clear silence. "And since transparency is trending," I continued, "maybe you can explain why you told 3 neighbors that I stole Leo's company." Gwen flushed. "I never said." "I have screenshots." Another silence. Deeper, more satisfying. "I didn't steal anything," I said. "I bought what was available. That's called business. And if any of you think I did something unethical, feel free to say so out loud instead of whispering it into plastic wine glasses." No one spoke. Someone in the back muttered, "Well, she's not wrong." I stood, gathered my purse. "If anyone wants to talk to me, my door is open. But if you'd rather talk about me, at least spell my name right." And I left. Sometimes the best way to win a battle is to let people realize they brought garden scissors to a legal war. And the next morning, Karma arrived with a bow. Alicia emailed the firm. "I understand my contract is under review. Can we discuss alternatives?" The response she got: "Your contract is terminated effective today. Please see attached release documents." No meeting, no negotiation, just the corporate equivalent of a shrug. She posted nothing on Instagram that day. Leo, however, was busy. He sent me a voice message. I didn't listen. I read the transcription. "You turned everyone against me. You think this story ends with you winning? It doesn't. I will fix this." I deleted it. The important part wasn't what he said. It was what he finally understood. He wasn't the one writing the story anymore. By sunset, the neighborhood had quieted again. The kind of quiet people pretend is peace, but is actually suspense. Gwen stayed inside. Alicia went silent. Leo stopped texting, which only meant one thing. They were regrouping. Good. Let them. I don't fear regrouping. I fear stagnation, and I am not done. Not even close. They thought firing him was the revenge. They think ruining her contract was the revenge. They think the HOA showdown was the revenge. But revenge isn't a single move. It's architecture. Layered, structured, sound enough to stand long after the noise stops. And the next layer, that one will shake more than dinner tables. That one will not be whispered. That one will be witnessed. And unlike them, I don't hide behind bushes. I walk right up to the window and knock. Because I am not the woman they remember. I am the one they never prepared for. There's a moment in every war, corporate, emotional, suburban, when the other side realizes they underestimated the quiet one. That moment had arrived. It didn't come in the form of an apology. It came in the form of Leo trying to stage a comeback. On Monday morning, a headline appeared on a regional business site. Former Western logistics partner speaks out after sudden ousting. I built that company. A photo of Leo, standing outside the office building in a navy suit, arms crossed like a politician who couldn't find a podium. The article quoted him describing his removal as hostile, unethical, and motivated by personal spite. He didn't mention the shares. He didn't mention the misconduct. He didn't mention the part where he was escorted out by security while still clutching half a bread roll. But he did mention me. My wife orchestrated this. She wants power more than fairness. She always resented my success. Resented, as if I hadn't paid for half the suits that success was tailored into. I forwarded the article to Vanessa with the subject line, "Am I supposed to feel flattered?" She replied, "Calm response or nuclear response?" I typed, "Let him talk, he's digging with a teaspoon." At noon, I had a board call. It wasn't a dramatic, gather the troops moment. It was just business, accounts reassigned, contracts reviewed, restructuring discussed. Calm, organized, efficient. A complete contrast to Leo's theatrics. When the meeting ended, Edgar stayed on the line. "He's trying to rally investors," he said. "Wants to start a consulting firm." "With what?" I asked. "Air and bitterness?" "He's using the narrative that you sabotaged him." "Let him," I said. "It won't stick. Facts beat noise. Eventually." "Eventually," he repeated, "but not immediately." Which was true. Rumor sprints, truth jogs. Meanwhile, Alicia was in the stage of crisis that comes right after denial and right before public reinvention. She posted a soft-hued quote on Instagram, white background, cursive font. "Everything happens for a reason. Some people are lessons." No hashtags, which meant she was in mourning for her audience. An hour later, she tried again. Photo, her hand holding a smoothie. Caption, "Focus on wellness, energy doesn't lie." She had officially entered her smoothie healing era. I didn't comment. I didn't block her. I didn't stalk her profile. Revenge is not obsession. Revenge is follow-through. 2 days later, the real confrontation arrived. I was pulling out of my driveway when a car cut across the cul-de-sac and blocked my path. Leo's car. The one he kept in perfect condition because a man is only as strong as the shine of his wheels, apparently. He stepped out, sunglasses, frustration, ego, like someone auditioning for a movie about a midlife crisis. "You need to stop," he said, marching up to my driver's side window. "I'm not sure if you noticed," I said, "but I'm literally trying to leave. You're blocking the part where that happens." "You orchestrated all of this," he hissed. "You're ruining my reputation." "No," I corrected. "Your behavior ruined your reputation. I just stopped babysitting it." "You think you're clever." "I think I'm organized." His jaw clenched. "You leaked things." "I expose things. Leaking implies liquids. I prefer documents." He slammed his hand on my hood. "You won't win." I smiled. "Leo, I already won. You're just late to the scoreboard." He stepped closer. Too close. "I'm warning you. Please don't threaten me in broad daylight on a cul-de-sac with 3 retired couples watching from their blinds." He stepped back, not because he respected me, but because he finally noticed the audience. Mrs. Hayworth's blinds shifted like a squirrel was testifying. He got in his car, spun the wheels, and drove away like someone trying to outrun accountability. It was dramatic. It was sloppy. It was predictable. And later that afternoon, The real twist arrived. Edgar called again. Just a heads up, Leo tried to withdraw funds from the consulting branch account. That account was dissolved 6 months ago. I know that. You know that. He apparently did not. You'd think a businessman would read financial updates, I said. He also tried to email his old clients using the firm directory. Did it block him? Yes. Then what's the issue? He sent them a personal email instead. I paused. What did he say? You'll want to see it. He forwarded it. The email read, I've been forced out of the company I helped build. I am starting a new firm. If you value loyalty and integrity, I hope you'll join me. Loyalty and integrity. The man once tried to expense a vacation to Cabo as a leadership seminar. Edgar continued, We can't legally stop him from sending private emails, but we can respond with a statement. Want me to do it? No, I said. I'll do it. Polite, direct, boring. Boring is lethal in business. That night, while I was drafting the reply, another message came in, from a name I had not expected. Gwen. Subject line, we need to talk. I clicked expecting drama. It was better. Alicia came to my house today. She said you're trying to destroy her. She said she's the victim. I told her I don't get involved, but I think you should know what she's saying. I stared at the email for a long moment, not because of the content, because Gwen had switched sides, and that meant one thing. The shark smelled blood. Not mine. Theirs. This neighborhood would never stand behind a sinking person. Not out of morality, out of aesthetic concern. Which meant something else. Alicia was losing the sympathy vote. Beautiful. But it still wasn't enough. Not yet. Not for the ending I had planned. So I made a decision. One that wasn't polite, one that wasn't passive, one that was absolutely within legal limits, but would feel like an earthquake to the people who underestimated me. I found Alicia's car, not by stalking, by observation. She always parked in the same lot near the yoga studio where she pretended to find spiritual balance while drafting corporate betrayals. The car was spotless, beige interior, personalized plate, a small crystal dangling from the rearview mirror, the kind of vehicle that practically begged to be left a message, not a cruel message, not vandalism, not anything criminal, just an adjustment. I took a small key from my pocket, the one for my old office desk, and I made one clean, deliberate line across the side panel. Not random, not messy. 4 words. Wrong team, wrong woman. Then I stepped back. No slashing, no smashing, just a reminder that not all wars are fought in boardrooms and court documents. Some are fought in the spaces people assume are safe. The next morning, Alicia posted no smoothie photos. Instead, she sent me a text. You scratched my car. I know it was you. I replied, strange. I assumed you'd know what real consequences look like by now. She wrote back, You're unhinged. I typed, No, just thorough, and I left it at that. But the real climax of this chapter happened 3 days later. Company retreat, Western Logistics Annual Summit, the one Leo used to run like a king giving sermons. This time, I was on the stage. Not behind the scenes, not taking notes, not smiling for optics. The keynote was mine. The room was full. Employees, managers, investors. The same people who once laughed at Leo's jokes about me now watched me like someone had rearranged their furniture and upgraded the flooring. I walked onto the stage slowly, confidently, in a black suit, with no jewelry, except a watch that cost less than Leo's tie clip, because power doesn't need sparkle when it's already built into the walls. I took the mic. Some of you already know me, I said. Some of you thought you did. Polite laughter. Tense. I won't stand here and pretend we haven't had a disruptive quarter. We have. But disruption doesn't mean chaos. Not when it's directed. Not when it has purpose. The room steadied. breathing synced. We are restructuring, we are stabilizing, and we are moving forward with stronger policies, cleaner contracts, and leadership that has nothing to hide. Someone shifted uncomfortably. Good. Discomfort is progress in motion. And for anyone wondering if we are weaker without the people we removed, let me say this clearly. We aren't smaller, we're sharper, and sharp things build faster. Applause, real applause, not polite, not forced, and then the doors opened. Leo walked in, late, dramatic, delusional. He marched down the aisle toward the stage. Security moved. I raised a hand. Let him come. He reached the front. You don't get to erase me, he said, voice shaking. I looked at him. Not angry, not afraid, just finished. You erased yourself, I said. I'm just editing the record. He looked around, expecting support. None came, because no one wants to follow a man who already fell. He stormed out, not with dignity, just volume. Then I turned back to the audience and continued my speech. No wobble, no break, no apology. That was the moment, the one where a room full of people saw me not as the villain, not as the rumor, not as the wife who snapped, but as the person in charge. That night, Leo texted me again. You think this is over? I replied, No, Leo, I think this is the middle, and you're already tired. He didn't respond, which meant he finally understood something important. I wasn't reacting to him. I was building past him. One final detail before this chapter closes. As I drove home from the retreat, rain started, soft at first, then heavier. The road shimmered, the kind of night that makes reflections look like alternate realities. I pulled into my driveway and noticed something under the wiper blade of my car. A note. From Alicia, handwritten. You win, but you're not better than us. Just colder. I crumpled it and tossed it in the bin. Because she was wrong. I'm not colder. I'm clearer. And clarity doesn't apologize. It finishes, and then prepares the next move. There's a very specific expression people get when they realize the universe is no longer bending in their direction. It's not shock. Shock is loud. This one is quiet. It's the look someone wears when the center of gravity shifts and they're no longer the axis of anything. That look had finally settled onto Leo. He'd spent the first week after the corporate coup storming, posturing, demanding meetings, threatening legal action, messaging old colleagues, announcing he was launching something bigger. The second week was rage disguised as ambition, LinkedIn updates, desperate calls to contacts who suddenly weren't answering, the kind of forced optimism that cracks like old paint. By the third week, reality started to set in. The fourth week is where this chapter begins, because this is where power doesn't just shift, it takes root. I was in the middle of reviewing the firm's quarterly restructure plan when Vanessa called. You're going to like the news, she said, and I could hear the smirk. Leo's first consulting firm launch collapsed before it started. What happened? He tried pitching to one of Weston's ex-clients. They asked for his projections. He sent them a template with half the sections still labeled Insert Data here. They forwarded it back to us. With commentary. What kind of commentary? You'll enjoy it. We didn't realize Leo Hayes worked in theoretical math now, since none of these numbers seem to exist. I put the call on speaker and scribbled a note. He's trying to rebuild based on charm, I said. Charm only works when you're still allowed in the room. And he won't be, not after the second update. Second? She exhaled the way lawyers exhale when they're trying not to laugh. He applied for a business loan. The bank pulled his current credit standing. His unemployment status flagged the application. They listed him as a high-risk borrower. Meaning? No loan, no consultant firm, no startup. And he doesn't know I know. Not yet, she said, but he's going to try something else next, and we both know it won't be logical. Good, I said. Illogical men are easier to predict. By afternoon, the neighborhood had resumed its quiet obsession with watching my life like it was the BBQ chicken special at a food fair. Messy, smoky, worth observing from a safe distance. The group chat had toned down the accusations and replaced them with concerns. She must be exhausted holding up that company alone. There's something cold about a woman who doesn't show emotion. She could have handled it privately. The translation? We would have preferred if she'd stayed small. I made myself tea and let the window blinds catch sun the way only calm people's blinds do. Calm unsettles people more than anger. Anger, they can argue with. Calm offers no opponent. On Wednesday morning, the next tremor arrived. Security footage, notorious among executives, feared by anyone who thinks glass is invisible when it's convenient. My head of security sent a clip from the weekend, time-stamped midnight. Western Logistics lobby cam. Leo, hood up, trying to use his old badge. It beeped red. He tried again. Red. He looked around, ducked behind the reception counter, and attempted to log in to a desktop. The badge swipe log matched the timestamp at the security terminal. He wasn't subtle. He wasn't strategic. He was desperate. I forwarded the clip to Edgar with the note, "Handle, but don't escalate yet." Then I sat back and waited. He called an hour later. "You want to press charges?" he asked. "No. That's not the answer I expected. Pressing charges is emotional. I don't want emotional. I want useful." "You want leverage." "Exactly." He paused. "You're a very polite hurricane, Marina." "No," I said. "I'm the weather report. The hurricane is whatever they did before I arrived." That same afternoon, Alicia showed up at the office building. She no longer walked the way she used to. Back arched, bag swinging, hair arranged like a magazine ad. She walked like someone who finally understood gravity. Our receptionist buzzed my line. "She says she just wants 5 minutes." Did she specify whether she prefers humiliation in public or private? A pause. She didn't use those exact words. "Put her in conference room C, I'll give her 10. When I walked in, she stood to greet me. No smile, no latte, no filter. "You're recording this, aren't you?" I asked. Her eyes widened a little. "No." "Good, then let's begin." She sat. "I want this to stop." "What part?" "All of it." "You'll need to be more precise, Alicia. All of it is the kind of phrasing people use when they don't want to admit to anything specific." She pressed her hands flat on the table. "You've already taken the job, the reputation, the clients. I get it. You won." "Oh, I'm not trying to win," I said, leaning back. "Winning implies we were playing the same game. We weren't. So what do you want?" "Nothing from you. I already got what I needed." "You got me fired." "No, you got you fired. I just pointed at the paperwork." She swallowed. "You scratched my car." I left a reminder. Cars are repairable. Ethics are not. She stared at me, tired, angry, still arrogant in the ways people don't notice until the world stops clapping. "You don't even seem angry," she said. "I'm not," I replied. "I don't do fury, I do structure." "Leo says you're obsessed." "Leo also says he built a company he didn't legally own. He has a creative relationship with facts." She inhaled sharply. "He's not doing well." "That's not my emergency." "I think it will be," she said. I tilted my head. "Oh?" "He blames you. He's spiraling. He wants to make you pay." "Then tell him to get in line. There's a sign-up sheet." She pushed her chair back. "You don't understand. This isn't just hurt pride anymore." "Oh, I understand," I said, standing too. "He's finally realizing what it looks like when consequences arrive without a gift wrap. Just think about how far you want this to go." "I already thought about that," I said. 5 years ago." She left. I didn't watch her go. I'm not in the business of tracking the defeated. Thursday brought the next blow, louder, pettier but useful. A client emailed me a forwarded rant from Leo, long, frantic, pleading for them to distance themselves from the toxic leadership now running Western. Attached was a bulleted list titled, 10 Things You Don't Know About Marina Hayes. The list was blank, completely blank. He'd forgotten to type it. That was the most accurate document he ever created. That night, I got a text from a number I hadn't seen in years. Gwen. He's in front of your house, with a box. Should I call someone? I looked outside. There he was, in the drizzle, holding a cardboard box like a tragic movie extra, standing in the middle of my driveway. I opened the door. No shouting, no theatrical monologue, just, "What are you doing here, Leo?" "This is all I have left," he said, lifting the box. "Trophies, awards. I don't have an office to put them in anymore." "And you want me to feel something about that?" "It was supposed to be us, building something together." "No, Leo," I said softly. "It was always you, building an empire, and using my competence as scaffolding. You don't have to destroy me." "I didn't destroy you," I said. "I stopped holding you up." He set the box down on the step. "You're not the person I thought you were." "Correct," I said. "You thought I'd stay." He stared at me, searching for softness, mercy, weakness, anything familiar. He found none. Finally, he turned and walked away, left the box, left the driveway, left the last piece of the version of him that used to matter. I didn't open the box. I didn't throw it away. I just left it outside overnight, let the rain soak in. Some symbols don't need to be destroyed. They just need to be exposed. But here's the real scene, the one that mattered, the one no one else saw. Saturday. Company retreat follow-up event. Photos being taken for internal press. I'm walking through the parking garage, and suddenly, Leo is there. He steps out from behind a column. Calm. Too calm. He doesn't yell. He doesn't accuse. He just says, "You took everything." I stop. Not scared. Not shaken. Just alert. "No," I reply. "You lost everything. I simply stopped cushioning the landing. You could have walked away quietly. You could have respected the person you married. You think this makes you powerful? No, this makes me done." He steps closer. "I'm not finished." "You are," I said. "You just don't like the ending." He stares at me, like if he stares long enough, the universe will rewind. Then I walk away, because the greatest dismissal is not slamming the door. It's not looking back. Back in my car, my hands didn't tremble, my voice didn't shake, my thoughts didn't spiral. They sharpened, because this wasn't the climax. This was the warning. He still had one move left, and so did I. Every plan has a final card. Every war has a last strike. The next chapter wouldn't just end the story. It would finish the myth of Leo Hayes, completely. And when it was done, there would be no rumors left, no comeback scripted, no audience still waiting to see if he'd rebound. Just silence. Not peaceful silence. Finished silence. The kind that follows a door closing and knowing it will never open again. The thing about endings is that people always assume they happen with a final sentence, or a dramatic crescendo, or some poetic full circle moment. But endings aren't ceremonies. They're collisions. They happen when two opposing forces finally run out of space to coexist. And that's where we were now. Leo and I, out of space, out of pretenses, out of anything left to negotiate. It started with an email, not from Leo, not from Alicia, not from Gwen, or the HOA, or any of the usual players in this suburban chess match. It came from Western Logistics Security. Subject, incident report, urgent. Attached was a still frame from the parking structure camera. Leo. Again, same hoodie, same restless posture, same mistake of believing that access was not a privilege but a birthright. Except this time, He wasn't trying to sneak into the office. He was pacing near the executive garage, near my reserved space, and he waited there for almost an hour. No break-ins, no property damage, just waiting. That was worse. People who throw tantrums are predictable. People who wait quietly are planning. I closed the email, grabbed my keys, and drove to the office anyway. Because sometimes the only way to control the final act is to walk into it willingly. The parking structure was almost empty, the way all corporate spaces are on late Fridays, when the ambitious are home pretending not to work from their phones. I pulled into my spot, turned off the engine, and sat still for a moment. Silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that waits. I stepped out of the car, and there he was, not hiding this time, standing in plain view, as if the world was a courtroom and he was presenting Exhibit A himself, still standing. "You got the email," he said. "Yes. You came anyway." "I'm not scared of you, Leo. You should be." "No," I said, locking the car. "I should be bored, and I am." He didn't like that. His jaw tightened, his hands flexed the way they do when someone realizes their performance has no audience. "You think you've boxed me in," he said, "like I have no cards left." "You don't. You don't know what I'm capable of." "Oh, I do," I said. "That's why we're here." He laughed, but it wasn't confidence. It was effort. "You enjoy this. That's the part that's disturbing. You're supposed to feel something." "I do," I said. "Relief. You took everything. I took nothing that was yours. I took back everything that was mine." Then I raised a brow. "And some things that weren't, but only because you left them lying around unattended." He stepped closer. "Say you're proud of yourself," he said. "Say it." "I am," I answered instantly, "and the speed of that reply should really concern you." He nodded once, slowly. "You know what's funny? You think this is justice. You think the world's applauding." "No," I said. "I think the world's moving on, which is worse for you than applause." He didn't reply, because that was the part he couldn't fight. Not the revenge, not the corporate exile, not the neighborhood rumors. He could fight an enemy. He couldn't fight irrelevance. Then came the part neither of us expected. The sound of tires skidding. A car turned the corner. Fast, too fast for a parking structure. Alicia's car. She parked crooked, jumped out, slammed the door. "Leo," she yelled, heels clacking like they were filing a complaint with the concrete. "What are you doing?" He didn't turn. "Go home, Alicia." "No," she said, marching up beside him. "You said you were just coming to pick up something, not stalk her like a bad melodrama." "This isn't about her," he said. "It's always been about her." She threw her arms up. "Your career implodes. Her fault. Clients drop you. Her fault. Your car breaks down. Probably her fault too, right?" He glared. "You don't get it." "No," she shot back. "You don't get it. You thought you were the storm. Turns out you were the weather app. Loud, wrong, and ignored." I almost applauded. She kept going. "You said you had a plan. You said you'd fix everything. You didn't fix anything. You just blamed the same woman you built your success on." His face went still. "Are you choosing her side?" "I'm choosing reality," she said, "and reality doesn't need your permission anymore." He looked from her to me, back to her again. The dawning awareness that even the person who'd once held his ego like a trophy was now done polishing it. I turned, unlocked my car again, grabbed something from the passenger seat, and walked back to him. A flash drive. Labeled, security footage, no audio. He looked at it, then at me. "What is that?" "Your last chance to walk away without consequences," I said. "It shows you entering the garage repeatedly. Badge attempts, loitering. Enough to get a restraining order filed and approved in under 48 hours. You wouldn't." "I would," I said, "but I'd prefer not to." He stared at the flash drive like it was a lit fuse. Then he said the last honest sentence I would ever hear from him. "I don't know who you are anymore." And I said the most honest one I ever said to him. "You never did." I put the flash drive in his hand. "If you walk away now, no noise, no retaliation, no whispers, you disappear quietly. You get to salvage whatever scraps of dignity you have left. And if I don't," I looked him directly in the eyes, "then the last chapter of your public life becomes a cautionary tale I write myself." Silence. Alicia watched him. I waited. He finally closed his fingers around the flash drive. Then he walked away. Not a speech, not a threat, just footsteps fading into a place where power no longer followed. Alicia stayed a moment longer. "You're terrifying," she said. "I'm efficient." She nodded. "And I hate you." "Good," I said. "Hate requires energy. Eventually, you'll get tired." She left too. 2 exits, 2 endings, 1 final scene left. I drove home without music, not triumphant, not shaking, just done. When I pulled into my driveway, that cardboard box was still there, the one Leo left with his trophies. Rain had dried on it. The cardboard warped, the metal plaques inside probably tarnished. I didn't kick it, I didn't trash it, I didn't move it inside for sentimental archiving. I left it, because sometimes the strongest statement isn't destruction, it's abandonment. I walked inside, closed the door, and for the first time in weeks, the house felt like mine. Not shared, not argued over, not staged for guests or neighbors or legal positioning. Just mine. Quiet. Uncrowded. Settled. People think revenge is about fire. It's not. It's about clarity. And when clarity arrives, you don't cheer, you breathe. One clean, uninterrupted breath. Then you walk forward, and you don't look back. That's where it ends. Not with forgiveness, not with reconciliation, not with a moral or a lesson or a speech about healing. Just the truth. I didn't destroy Leo. I stopped protecting him. And the fall he experienced wasn't punishment. It was gravity. The kind that always existed. The kind he thought didn't apply to him. The kind that finally, inevitably, proved it did. And the world didn't applaud. It didn't gasp. It didn't narrate. It just moved on. And so did I.